Because one of the things is that people judge what others would do by what they would do. And so they say things like, they'd kill all those people on 9/11 just to change society. They'd never do that. No, you wouldn't do that. They do it all the time. And it's this grasping of the scale of evil behind the manipulation of the direction of the world, and this concept of problem reaction solution, which that evil uses by doing its evil and then offering a solution to its evil, which leads to more evil. So seeing that more and more grasped, like I say, is really encouraging in terms of where we were not that long ago. And when I started out on this journey 25 years ago, where we basically weren't at all. But like I say, it's not that all these things are hoaxes. There are many different ways that they play problem reaction solution, but certainly there are hoaxes, and I mean complete hoaxes. I mean, Sandy Hook, the shootings at the Sandy Hook school was absolutely a hoax. And if you have not come across this, well, just go to my website and put the keyword Sandy Hook in, and you'll get the archive articles, including the work of a man called Wolfgang Halbig. And he is a man who's had a long career in security and safety, including a career looking after the safety and security of schools in the United States. And he started out accepting the official story when it was all breaking in the news, to the point where he actually donated to the fund. But being a professional, being someone who was well aware of how all this works and what's credible and what's not, and what should happen in reacting to these things, because it's his job, he started to realize that not only were the public being told a pack of lies about the shootings and killings at Sandy Hook, but actually there had been no killings. And that is, if you're hearing this for the first time, absolutely shocking. You're mad, mate. What are you talking about? They'd never do that. They did do that. Look into it. And look into Wolfgang's work and what he said and how he's been treated and threatened since he started going public on the fact that this is a nonsense. First of all, you want to change the world or create a situation. And you know that if you just announce openly, this is what you're going to do, or this is what you want to happen, then you're going to get a big reaction against it. So you don't announce it openly. You play the technique of problem reaction solution. Stage one, you create a problem covertly. You blame it on someone else, your target, or you create a situation of upheaval of some kind. You then, through an unquestioning media, mainstream media, you tell the public the version of the problem that you want them to believe. And what you're looking for at stage two is the reaction from the public of fear, of outrage, and basically of either do something, or you get the public into a state where they will accept what you're suggesting in ways that they never would without the initial covertly created problem. So you've created the problem, you've got the reaction, do something, or an acceptance of a suggestion that you of something you want to do as a result of it. And then stage three, you offer the solution to the problems you have covertly created. Now, this has been used to devastating effect so many times over the years, because if it works, why change it? We had a war on terror, still have, with our freedoms being taken away, and war and conflicts galore. And we had the invasion of Afghanistan. On the basis of the official story of 9/11, being true. That hijackers, Muslim hijackers, hijacked the planes and flew them into the buildings, etc., as a terrorist act against America. So you had the problem, you had the reaction, understandable outrage and horror, and then you had the solution. And the solution has been the invasion of Afghanistan, the war on terror, taking freedoms away, justified by fighting terrorism, and the whole momentum of war, including Iraq and Syria and Libya and so on, has actually been driven by that initial burst of horror and excuse from 9/11. So if the official story wasn't true, and my goodness me, it wasn't, then all that has been justified since has been on the basis of a lie, a massive, monumental lie. And those with a mind of their own who have looked at the detailed research into the official story of 9/11 have seen, because it hardly takes a genius to do so, that hardly one strand of that story fits to another. If this is true, that can't be true. If that's true, then that can't be true. The contradictions and the anomalies are stunning. And so this problem reaction solution technique has been used over and over again. And what has happened to Malaysian flight MH17 that came down over Ukraine has all the hallmarks of a problem reaction solution. Who benefits? Who benefits from what has happened, and who benefits from me and the public believing the official version of what has happened? So if you look at 9/11, who benefited from that? Well, the Muslim world didn't, clearly. Look at it. The American people didn't, of course. One group, and one group alone, benefited primarily from 9/11. And that was anyone that wanted to launch a war on terror, i.e. a war of acquisition and slaughter, and anyone that wished to use that as the excuse to demolish civil rights, rights to privacy, and basic human freedoms all around the world. So you look at MH17. Who benefits from us believing the official story that it was taken down on purpose by pro-Russian separatists who are fighting the Ukrainian, actually fascist regime in Kiev? Who benefits from that? And who benefits from the connection and the blame being handed on from the pro-Russian separatists to the Russian government and Putin? Well, anyone that wants to demonize Russia. And as I've been saying in my books and in these videocasts in recent weeks, that is precisely the idea, because there is a long-term plan to have a war between the West and Russia / China, the Third World War. And in that, you cannot divorce what is happening in Ukraine and the downing of MH17 and what is happening horrifically in Gaza as we speak. It is possible to manipulate the brain of individuals and collectively to decode reality in the way you want. Because as Susan Greenfield talks about in this book, there was a time when it was believed that the brain didn't change, that what you had once the brain had developed is how it was always going to be. Now it's known that is anything but the case because of something they called or call brain plasticity, which comes from a Greek word meaning to be molded. And that is what is happening all the time with our daily experience, is the brain is being molded to create networks of chemical, electrical communication. And that's changing with our experience. And what this book by Susan Greenfield is really focused upon is how the internet, social media, video games, and such like is changing the brains of humanity, especially the young, and why that is, I'll come to as we go along. So all the time, as we are having experiences, to put it in computer terms, the brain is downloading data. And from that data, it is changing the way that it communicates and how it communicates and what it communicates with. This is a part of the book, where it's page 55. Here we go. And it's saying that the internal processing of the brain will determine how you see the world, but whatever external inputs are being fed into your brain at any one time, the experience of that very moment will simultaneously change that organization of brain cells, and hence your thinking. One leading expert in brain development, Brian Kolb, sums up: anything that changes your brain changes who you will be. No one can be in any doubt, surely, that the internet and social media and video games are changing the brain because of the different information, the different way of working that's brought into human society. He goes on: your brain is not just produced by your genes, it is sculpted by a lifetime of experiences. Experience alters brain activity, which changes gene expression. Any behavioral changes you see reflect alterations in the brain. The opposite is also true. Behavior can change the brain. And so one of the lines that Susan Greenfield uses a lot is use it or lose it. Because the way the brain works, if you stop using part of it, or the networks that at that point have come together, the communication networks, then they fade and they disappear. So you can learn something and carry out that practice, whatever you've learned, and then you stop, and that connection, that network that came together because of what you learned and what you were doing, then starts to unravel. And there's another thing about the brain which it talks about in the book, and that is that it doesn't do vacant space. If it's there, it will be used in some way. And there's a fascinating point she makes, that when people in older days, older life, get cataracts, well, when the cataract's removed, most of the time, it seems, the sight returns. But with children, when they get cataracts, in other words, the part of the brain relating to sight is not being used because of the effect of the cataract, then often children who then have cataracts removed have impaired vision for the rest of their life. And the way she explains it is the brain still changes as we get older, but it changes slower. Older people's brains are much less apt to responding and changing. And we use phrases like they're set in their ways. But the brain does still change, but slowly. Whereas in children and young people, this is very relevant for the social media stuff that we're talking about and the book talks about, it changes fast.